When Erica lifted her glass at the Prairie Rose Event Hall, she looked directly at me and smiled. "Some people are good at studying problems," she said. "Other people are built to solve them in the real world." There were about 40 people in the room. My parents sat beside her, both looking proud. Her husband, Daniel, stared down at his plate. Across from me, the chair of the Oklahoma Seismic Safety Council gave a polite laugh. I had a folder resting on my lap. Erica didn't know what was inside it. My parents didn't know either. At that moment, they still believed the worst thing they had done was give my sister an old laptop I wasn't using. They had no idea what the laptop contained, what Erica had taken from it, or what I had spent the previous several weeks proving. My name is Dawn Patterson, and I'm 33 years old. If you've ever been treated like the capable child was the disposable one, I know how confusing that gets. Please like this video and subscribe. That dinner at the Prairie Rose wasn't where this started. It started at my parents' house on Ash Creek Lane, about 6 weeks earlier, when my father called and asked me to come home for what he described as a small family meal. I live in Oklahoma City. I work for an engineering firm as a geological hazards consultant. Most days, that means I review subsurface data, study fault behavior, and explain to companies why pumping enormous amounts of wastewater underground can cause problems they would prefer to call unexpected. It isn't glamorous. I spend a lot of time looking at colored lines on computer screens. I also spend more time than anyone should in conference rooms, with bad coffee and men who say, "Just give me the simple version before asking 18 complicated questions." I like the work, though. I'm good at it. On the Thursday, my father called. I was still at my desk after most of the office had cleared out. Bailey Curtis, who works 2 offices down from me, was standing in my doorway eating crackers from a vending machine packet. My phone lit up with Dad's name. I almost let it ring. Bailey pointed at it. "You going to answer that? I'm considering whether I have the energy. That means family. It usually does." I picked up. Dad didn't say hello. He said, "Are you coming to Stillwater Sunday?" I didn't know I was supposed to. "Your mother sent you a message." I checked my computer clock, as if it could tell me when my mother had supposedly done that. I haven't seen one. "Well, we're having dinner. Nothing big. Your sister and Daniel will be here." There was a pause after he said Erica's name. Dad always paused like that when he expected me to rearrange something for her. "What time?" I asked. 5. "Try not to get here after we sit down. I'm usually on time." "I know. I'm just saying." Bailey had turned toward the window, politely pretending not to listen. I asked, "What's the occasion?" "No occasion. Your mother wants both her girls home. That should have warned me." My mother had never needed both her girls home for an ordinary dinner. If she wanted company, she called Erica. If she needed something fixed, lifted, researched, returned, paid, or explained, she called me. I said, "All right, I'll be there." "Good. And wear something decent." I looked down at the blouse and gray trousers I had worn to meet a client that morning. What does decent mean? You know what I mean. I really don't. He sighed. "Just don't come straight from hiking or anything. I don't hike on Sunday afternoons." "Fine, Dawn. We'll see you then." He hung up before I could ask again what the dinner was about. Bailey waited 2 seconds. "Nothing big?" she asked. "Apparently. So it's big. Probably for Erica." Bailey offered me a cracker. I took one. She knew enough about my family not to ask for the whole history. She had met my mother once at an awards dinner and watched Andrea Patterson spend 20 minutes talking about Erica's graduate program. At the time, Erica was still trying to finish her doctorate. My mother had barely mentioned that I already had mine. After that dinner, Bailey had said, "Your mom knows you work here, right?" "She knows. And she knows what you do. She knows I do something with earthquakes." Bailey had stared at me. I laughed because the other option was explaining 30 years of family behavior in a hotel parking lot. The basic pattern was simple. Erica needed help. I didn't. That was how my parents described us. Erica was 3 years older than me, but somehow she was always the one being guided through something. When she missed a deadline, Mom called the person in charge. When she ran short on money, Dad found a reason it wasn't her fault. When she changed programs, jobs, apartments, or plans, we were told she was brave enough to start over. When I handled something alone, everyone treated that as proof I had not needed them. I don't mean they never fed me or bought me clothes. They did. We had a stable home. Dad was a high school principal, and Mom kept books part-time for several local businesses. Bills got paid. Birthdays were remembered. The difference showed up in the places that didn't leave receipts. When Erica started her geology doctorate at Oklahoma State in 2014, Dad helped her move into an apartment near campus. He carried boxes up 2 flights of stairs, assembled her bed, and took her grocery shopping. When I started the same department 2 years later, Dad told me I could borrow his hand truck. He needed it back by Monday. I told myself it made sense. I was better organized. Erica got overwhelmed. I had a funded assistantship. Erica's financial package kept changing. I could lift my own boxes. That explanation worked for a long time. My grandmother Rosa was the only person who ever seemed bothered by it. Rosa Alexander was my mother's mother. She was small, observant, and impossible to distract once she had noticed something. She never made broad declarations about fairness. She just paid attention. When I graduated from college in 2015, she gave me the laptop that eventually became the center of everything. It was a silver Dell XPS. At the time, it was nicer than anything I would have bought for myself. Grandma had saved for it, then asked a jewelry repair shop in Stillwater to engrave her initials on the underside. RAI turned it over at her kitchen table and ran my thumb across the letters. "You know computers don't usually get engraved," I said. "Then nobody will accidentally decide it belongs to them." I looked up. She was stirring sugar into her coffee. "Is that a warning?" I asked. "It's an observation." Mom, who was standing near the sink, said, "Mother, no one is going to steal Dawn's computer. Grandma didn't even look at her. I didn't say steal. That was Rosa. She could place one sentence in a room and let everyone else decide why it made them uncomfortable. I used that laptop through my entire doctoral program. My research focused on injection-induced seismicity in Oklahoma. In ordinary language, I studied how wastewater injection can alter pressure underground and contribute to earthquakes along faults that had been sitting quietly. The work involved years of data, seismic records, injection volumes, well locations, pressure models, and regional stress patterns. I spent whole weekends correcting location coordinates and rerunning calculations because one measurement looked wrong. Grandma used to call on Sunday evenings. "Did the ground behave this week?" she would ask. "Not really." "Good. That keeps you employed." She didn't understand every technical detail, but she understood that the work mattered to me. She also understood that getting through the program was not automatic. My assistantship was funded through a 5-year federal research grant worth $210,000. That money supported the research from 2016 through 2021. It also came with more rules than I could keep straight. Every training session seemed to introduce another portal, form, or record-keeping requirement. I complied because I wanted to keep my funding. At the time, most of those systems felt like administrative clutter sitting between me and the actual research. Dr. Samuel Willis chaired my dissertation committee. He was patient about science and impatient about excuses. During one meeting, he tapped a chart on my screen and said, "This is either very interesting or very wrong. Those aren't the only options. They are until you check your source data." I checked it. It was very wrong. I rebuilt the chart, corrected the pressure estimates, and found a smaller result that held up. Dr. Willis liked the corrected version better. "Large claims get attention," he told me. "Accurate claims survive." I remembered that sentence. I defended my dissertation in 2020. The defense took place in a windowless room on the OSU campus with a long conference table and a projector that made everything slightly green. Dad attended. Mom attended. Erica said she was going to come but had an instrumentation problem in her own lab. About 10 minutes before I started, Mom came over and adjusted the collar of my blouse. "Erica feels terrible," she said. "It's fine, she really does." She said the equipment failed again. I said it's fine. Dad was checking his phone. She has a lot riding on that project. So do I said. He looked up. Of course you do. Then Dr. Willis walked in and we began. The defense lasted almost 2 hours. Dr. Willis questioned my assumptions about stress transfer. Another committee member challenged the way I had separated background seismicity from injection-related activity. I answered what I could. When I didn't know, I said I didn't know. After the committee sent me into the hallway, I stood between my parents and waited. Mom used the time to check whether Erica had gotten the instrument running. Dad asked if I thought I had passed. I think so. You always think the worst. I just defended 4 years of work. I'm allowed to be nervous for 10 minutes. He patted my shoulder. You'll be fine. I was. Dr. Willis opened the door, shook my hand, and called me a Dr. Patterson. Mom hugged me. Dad took a picture. We went out for barbecue afterward. Erica joined us halfway through the meal and spent most of it explaining what had gone wrong in her lab. I remember looking across the table at Grandma Rosa. She didn't interrupt Erica. She waited until Erica stopped to take a drink. Then she raised her tea toward me. To Dr. Dawn, she said. Everyone repeated it. For about 5 seconds, the evening belonged to me. I moved to Oklahoma City later that year for my consulting job. My apartment was small, and I was using a company-issued computer for most of my work. During the move, I left several boxes at my parents' house, along with the Dell. That decision bothered me afterward, but it made sense at the time. Dad had offered to store my old desk and some furniture until I moved somewhere larger. The laptop went into a padded sleeve in the bottom drawer of that desk. I had already transferred my personal photos and current documents to cloud storage. I thought of the Dell as a retired school computer. I did not think of it as abandoned. Grandma died in 2021. She was 81. After the funeral, my mother divided up small things from her house. Erica received a gold bracelet. I got Grandma's recipe box and a ceramic bowl with a crack near the rim. I didn't argue. I wanted the recipe box. I also wanted the sound of Grandma asking whether the ground had behaved. There wasn't a form for claiming that. By 2022, I had settled into work. Erica had not settled into anything. She was in the 8th year of her doctoral program. Family conversations around her became careful. Dad stopped asking when she would finish. Mom referred to every setback as a delay with the equipment. I knew her research involved field instrumentation. I knew the project had gone badly. I did not know how close she was to being dismissed. Nobody told me. Erica defended in 2023. I wasn't invited to the defense. Mom said Erica wanted to keep it small because she was anxious. They held a dinner afterward. I attended that. Dad gave a toast about perseverance. Mom cried. Erica thanked Daniel for standing by her. She thanked Dr. Leland, her advisor. She thanked my parents. She did not mention me. There was no reason she should have. At least, that was what I believed then. By 2025, Erica had started presenting herself as an expert on regional earthquake risk. She spoke at meetings, sat on panels, and gave interviews when Oklahoma had a noticeable seismic event. I didn't follow her career closely. We worked in related areas, but not together. If one of her interviews appeared online, Mom sent me the link with a row of clapping hands. When my firm published a technical report I had led, Mom replied, "Very nice," and asked whether I had seen Erica's latest panel. Again, the explanation was always that Erica needed support. I had support from my job. Erica needed it from family. So when Dad called about that Sunday dinner in 2026, I expected an announcement. I assumed Erica had gotten a contract or joined another advisory committee. I left Oklahoma City shortly after 2 that afternoon. The drive to Stillwater took a little over an hour. I stopped for gas near Edmond and bought coffee that tasted burned even after I added cream. I wore a dark green dress because Dad had told me to wear something decent. I felt ridiculous for obeying him, but I knew what would happen if I arrived in jeans. Mom would spend the first 15 minutes asking whether I had come directly from work. When I turned onto Ash Creek Lane, there were 6 cars parked outside my parents' house. That was the first clear sign that Dad had lied. I sat behind the wheel for a moment, looking at the cars. I recognized Erica's white SUV and Daniel's sedan. The others belonged to people I didn't know. I checked Dad's text. Small family dinner. 5 o'clock. It was 4:52. I walked in without knocking. People were standing in the living room holding wine glasses. Mom had set out her good serving dishes. There were flowers on the dining table and a sheet cake on the kitchen counter. The cake said, "Congratulations, Chief Science Director." Erica came out of the kitchen wearing a blue dress and carrying a bottle of champagne. "There she is," she said. I looked at the cake. What happened to the small family dinner? Dad appeared behind her. It grew. "You could have told me. We didn't want you making an excuse." I looked at him. He seemed to realize how that sounded. "I mean, we wanted everyone here," he said. Mom hurried over and kissed my cheek. "You look nice. See, I told your father you'd make an effort. What are we celebrating?" Erica held up the champagne. My appointment was confirmed. To the council? Chief Science Director. She watched my face while she said it. The Oklahoma Seismic Safety Council oversaw the state's response to earthquake risk connected to wastewater injection. The Chief Science Director had real influence. That person reviewed research, advised on well restrictions, and helped shape recommendations that affected operators across Oklahoma. It was exactly the kind of role built on scientific credibility. I said, "That's a major appointment." "I know. Congratulations." Her smile changed slightly. I had given her the correct response, but not enough of it. Dad put his arm around her. The council said her dissertation was one of the strongest qualifications in the packet. On the mantel behind him, a framed press release had been propped beside a photograph of Erica and Daniel. I walked toward it. The release announced Erica Grant as the incoming Chief Science Director. Under her photograph was a description of her doctoral research, regional stress transfer and injection-induced seismicity in Oklahoma. I stopped reading. Then I started again from the beginning. The wording felt familiar in a way I could not place at first. Research in the same field often sounds similar. We use the same technical terms. We cite the same major earthquake sequences. We build from the same public data. Then I reached the abstract printed beneath the announcement. One sentence described identifying delayed seismic responses through a combined analysis of injection volume, pore pressure diffusion, and regional fault orientation. I knew that sentence, not the topic, the sentence. I had spent 3 days rewriting it in 2019. Erica stepped beside me. "Pretty good, right? Is this copied from your dissertation abstract? It's shortened a little." I read the next line. There was a phrase about separating immediate pressure effects from transferred regional stress. I remembered arguing with Dr. Willis over the word transferred. He thought propagated was more accurate. I had kept transferred because it sounded clearer. Erica had kept it too. Behind us, Dad was telling one of the guests about her 8 years of persistence. I asked Erica, "Can I see your full dissertation?" Her face stayed pleasant. "Why?" "I haven't read it. You had 3 years. I wasn't invited to your defense. You were busy. No one asked if I was busy." Mom appeared with a plate of cheese and crackers. "Please don't start," she said quietly. "I asked to read Erica's dissertation. And you can. Just not while people are arriving." Erica took a glass from the mantel. "It's online, Dawn. You know how university libraries work? I do." Dad came over, still smiling from his conversation. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Mom said. Erica drank some champagne. "Dawn's curious about my research all of a sudden." Dad laughed. "Well, maybe you two can finally collaborate." I looked again at the framed abstract. Dad followed my eyes. "You know, some of her early work was still on that old laptop from your room." The room seemed to narrow around his voice. "What old laptop?" "The silver one," he said. "We gave it to Erica when her computer quit." I turned away from the press release. "You gave Erica my Dell?" Dad's smile faded, but only a little. "And you weren't using it. That was in my desk. It was sitting there for years. 2 years. Fine, 2 years. You had a work computer. That laptop was mine." Mom set down the plate. "Dawn, Erica was in the middle of her dissertation. Her computer failed at the worst possible time. So you called me? We didn't think we needed to. I looked at Erica. She was holding her glass with both hands now. Did you know it was mine? Obviously, I knew it had been yours. It was from Grandma. I know where it came from. Did you open my files? Dad stepped closer. His voice dropped. This is not the time. That was the answer I had heard my whole life. Not now. Don't embarrass your sister. Don't make a good day difficult. We can talk later. Later usually meant never. I looked at Erica again. She lifted one shoulder. Dad said I could use it. That wasn't what I asked. Mom touched my elbow. Please. I could feel several people pretending not to listen. I took my arm away from her without making a scene. Then I smiled at the closest guest and said, "Excuse me. Long drive." I went into the bathroom and locked the door. For a minute, I stood with both hands on the sink. I wasn't ready to call it plagiarism. I didn't have enough yet. I had a familiar abstract and a laptop my parents had given away without asking. There could have been another explanation. Erica and I had studied in the same department. We worked on related questions. She could have read my published dissertation through the university library like anyone else. She could have cited it. The press release might have paraphrased both of us badly. That was what I told myself in my parents' bathroom while people opened champagne 20 feet away. Then I remembered Grandma turning over that silver laptop at her kitchen table. Nobody will accidentally decide it belongs to them. I stayed at the party for 1 hour and 12 minutes. I watched Dad make his toast. I watched Mom cut the cake. I listened to Erica explain that Oklahoma needed scientists who could translate research into action. She said the word original twice. At 6:15, I told Mom I had an early client meeting and left. Erica followed me onto the front porch. "You're being weird," she said. "I found out Dad gave you my laptop 3 years ago. 4. Whatever. You didn't even notice. I didn't know it was gone." "That's the same thing." "No, it isn't." She folded her arms. "Are you seriously going to make this about a used computer?" I asked whether you opened my files, and I told you Dad gave it to me. That still isn't an answer. Her eyes moved toward the front window. Dad was visible inside talking to Daniel. Erica lowered her voice. "I had my own research, Dawn. I didn't say you didn't. You were always so territorial about that subject. It was my dissertation topic. It's an entire field. You don't own earthquakes." That was the first moment I knew she was afraid of the question, not because of what she said, because she had prepared the answer. I went to my car. She called after me, "Don't ruin this for Mom and Dad." I turned around. "I haven't done anything. That's not what I mean." I drove back to Oklahoma City without turning on the radio. At home, I took off the green dress, hung it over a chair, and opened my personal laptop at the kitchen counter. My old cloud account took 2 password resets to access. There were folders from graduate school, conference slides, raw data, old photographs, and several versions of my dissertation. I found the final copy I had submitted in 2020. Then I opened the Oklahoma State Library website and searched for Erica Grant. Her dissertation appeared as the first result. The title was different from mine. The subject was not. I downloaded the file and put both documents side by side. For a while, I only looked at the title pages. My name on one, her name on the other. Then I scrolled to Erica's abstract and read the first full paragraph. The first 2 sentences were mine. She had changed "this study examines" to "this research evaluates," but everything after that matched. The punctuation matched. The citations appeared in the same order. Even the parenthetical phrase I had added after my committee asked for a clearer definition was still there. I moved both windows until the paragraphs lined up. At first, I thought I might be tired. I had driven to Stillwater, stood through a party I hadn't expected, and come home with the kind of suspicion that makes every coincidence look intentional. So I did something simple. I read my paragraph aloud. Then I read Erica's aloud. The sentences had the same rhythm because they were the same sentences. She had changed several verbs. She had removed 1 citation. She had divided my last sentence into 2. That was it. I closed her document. Then I opened it again. I wanted the result to change after a minute. It didn't. I went to the university library record and checked the publication date. Her dissertation had been accepted in May of 2023. There was a permanent link, a committee listing, and an electronic approval page. It looked official because it was official. The university had awarded her a doctorate for it. I downloaded another copy directly from the library record. I named that file with the date and time, then saved it in a new folder. I called the folder Erica Comparison. That was my first deliberate decision. Until then, I had been reacting. I had read the press release because it was on the mantle. I had asked about the laptop because Dad mentioned it. I had opened the dissertation because Erica told me it was online. Creating that folder was different. I had decided to pay attention. I scrolled to her literature review. The opening pages were different. Erica had added several newer sources published after my defense. She had also included a long section about regulatory policy that I had never written. For a few minutes, that gave me relief. Then I reached a subsection on the expansion of wastewater disposal in north-central Oklahoma. My paragraph was sitting in the middle of it. She had changed the first sentence and left the next 6 untouched. I highlighted them in yellow. 3 pages later, I found another section, then another. By 11:30, I had highlighted more than 20 passages. Some were a few sentences. Others ran almost a full page. The citations were not always identical. In several places, Erica had replaced an older source with a newer paper, making the same point. The shape of the writing remained mine. I knew because I remembered building it. People sometimes talk about writing as if the finished sentences appear all at once. Mine didn't. I had assembled those paragraphs through revisions, committee comments, and long evenings in the geology building. I remembered why one explanation came before another. I remembered which transitions Dr. Willis had questioned. I remembered the sentences I had kept because I was too tired to improve them. Erica had copied those too. At midnight, I reached a table summarizing injection volume and seismic activity across several study areas. The heading said Table 6. Mine had been Table 4. She had changed the number and adjusted the formatting. The data columns matched. I leaned closer to the screen. One row was labeled Garfield County. The well coordinates listed in that row were actually in Grant County. That had been my mistake. I had found it after my defense, while preparing part of the dissertation for publication. I corrected it in the journal article, but the final dissertation had already been deposited with the library. Erica's table still said Garfield County. I checked the coordinates one by one, same longitude, same latitude, same monthly injection totals, same error. I took a screenshot showing both tables and the university record behind Erica's file. Then I saved the screenshot to the comparison folder. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I expected some dramatic reaction. Instead, I became extremely careful. I wrote down where each file came from. I copied the permanent library link into a text document. I recorded the time I downloaded it. I backed up the entire folder to a separate cloud account. Then I sent the folder to myself by email. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't even thinking about consequences yet. I was thinking about the way Erica had said, "You didn't even notice." She had treated the years between taking the laptop and that Sunday as proof that I didn't care about it. What she had really been counting on was my silence. I stayed awake until almost 2. Before I went to bed, I printed the 2 abstracts. My printer ran out of black ink halfway through Erica's page, so the last few lines came out gray. I set both sheets on my kitchen table and placed my keys on top to keep them flat. I slept badly. The next morning, I woke before my alarm and checked the folder from my phone. It was still there. For some reason, I had worried that the files might disappear overnight. At work, I made coffee and left it untouched until it was cold. I had a video meeting at 9 with a client who wanted an updated risk map for a proposed disposal well. I answered questions, took notes, and promised a revised model by Thursday. While one of the engineers talked about pressure limits, I noticed a phrase in his presentation that resembled something from my dissertation. My stomach tightened before I realized he had cited me at the bottom of the slide. That small citation almost made me laugh. It was one line in tiny print, but it was more acknowledgement than my sister had given me in 200 pages. After the meeting, Bailey appeared in my doorway. "You look terrible," she said. "Thank you." Did the small dinner become a large, emotional incident? Yes. She stepped inside and closed the door. "What happened?" I turned my monitor toward her. The two dissertations were open side by side. Bailey looked from one title page to the other. "Why do you have your sister's dissertation?" "Read the abstracts." She sat in the visitor chair. Bailey's job at the firm involved technical data management and quality control. When we prepared large reports, she ran comparison software to track revisions between drafts. She was the person who could tell which analyst had changed a number, when it changed, and whether the same change had been carried into every related table. She read my abstract first. Then she opened Erica's. Her expression didn't change immediately. She went back to mine and moved her finger along the screen. "Did you two use a department template?" she asked. "For the title page and headings, yes. For the abstract language? No. Same advisor? No. Same project? No. Shared data set. Some public data sets would overlap, not all of them." Bailey read both abstracts again. "When did you write yours?" "I defended in 2020. And she defended in 2023? "Yes." She looked at me. "Does she have access to your drafts?" "My parents gave her my old laptop in 2022. Bailey sat back. "They did what?" "They said I wasn't using it. Was it theirs?" "No." "Did they ask?" "No." She looked at the title pages again. "What exactly do you want me to do?" It was a good question. Bailey wasn't asking whether I wanted comfort. She was asking what I needed from her professionally. I need to know if I'm seeing this clearly. You are. I need more than that. She nodded. "Send me clean copies of both files, not the versions where you highlighted passages." I hesitated. "These are dissertations in a public university archive. I'm not asking you to access anything confidential. That isn't why you're hesitating. No, you're wondering whether showing me makes it real." I looked through the glass wall of my office. Two engineers were talking beside the printer. Someone had left a roll of site plans on the counter. "It already feels real," I said. "Then send them." I forwarded both files. Bailey went back to her office. 20 minutes later, she sent me a message asking whether I could come over. She had a document comparison program open on one monitor and both dissertations on the other. Colored sections covered the pages. "This isn't a perfect method," she said. "The software will flag citations, technical terms, and standard language. We have to account for that." "All right." "It also gets confused when somebody rearranges sections." "Did she?" "Yes." Bailey scrolled through the results. She moved your methods, chapter. She split parts of it between two chapters and added newer sources. That makes the overall match percentage look lower. "What is the percentage? I'm not giving you one yet. A single number would be misleading." She clicked on a marked passage. "This is your description of the pressure diffusion model. I saw that. Did you develop the model?" "I adapted an established model. The equations aren't mine, but the explanation is, yes." She changed the variable labels and kept your explanation. Bailey opened another match. "This section has the same unusual word choice in both." I read it. The word was neighboring, used to describe fault segments. Most papers would have said adjacent. I had chosen neighboring because one committee member said adjacent sounded too mechanically precise. I remembered sitting at my apartment desk and changing that word. Bailey clicked again. Here's a paragraph where she changed the order of two sentences. Everything else is identical. She kept going. A definition from my second chapter, a limitation from my fifth, a description of the Jones earthquake sequence, a sentence where I had typed form instead of from. Erica's dissertation had the same typo. I put my hand on the back of Bailey's chair. "Can you stop there?" She turned around. "Do you need a minute?" "No, I need to think." She closed the office door. I stood by the window. The parking lot below was wet from overnight rain. A delivery driver was struggling with a stack of boxes outside the main entrance. Bailey waited. Finally, I asked, "Could this happen accidentally? Which part? All of it?" "No." "What if she used my dissertation as a source and lost track of what she copied? That would explain one passage, maybe two if she was careless." "It doesn't explain your table." I looked back at her screen. She pointed to the mislabeled county row. "Independent researchers can reach the same result," she said. "They don't independently make the same data labeling error with the same coordinates and the same monthly totals. What if the table came from a shared department file?" "Did it?" "I built it." "Then no." Bailey turned back to the comparison. "This is the same document wearing a new title page." The sentence was so plain that I couldn't avoid it. I sat in the second chair. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then Bailey asked, "Does your sister know you downloaded this?" I asked to see it last night. She told me it was online. "Does she know you still have your original drafts?" "I don't know." "Do your parents know what was on the laptop?" "I don't know that either." "Did they know your password?" "The computer had a login password. I haven't used it in years. Was the drive encrypted?" "I don't think so. If she had physical access, she could have gotten the files." I nodded. That was not a technical mystery. My parents had handed her the device. She had time and a reason to open it. Bailey studied me. "What are you going to do? I'm not calling her. I didn't suggest that. I know. I'm saying it so I don't do it." My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from Mom. "Dinner was lovely. I wish you could have stayed in a better mood." Erica noticed. I read it twice. Then another message arrived. "Please don't bring up the computer again." Your father was only trying to help her finish. I showed Bailey. She read both messages and handed the phone back. "Your mom knows more than she said last night." "Maybe. She knows giving away the laptop is connected to Erica finishing. That doesn't mean she knows about the dissertation." "No. It means you shouldn't ask her questions until you know what you're asking." I put the phone face down. That was why Bailey was useful. She didn't tell me what my family meant. She separated what we knew from what we suspected. I knew my parents gave Erica the laptop in 2022. I knew Erica was struggling to finish at the time. I knew she submitted a dissertation in 2023 containing my writing, my table, and my mistake. I did not know whether my parents had opened the files. I did not know what Erica told them. I did not know whether anyone in her department had noticed. Most of all, I didn't know how much of my work she had taken. Bailey exported a comparison report. "This is for you," she said. "Don't circulate it yet. I ran it with our standard software, but I'm doing this as a colleague, not as a formal examiner." "I understand. If this goes anywhere official, the university will use its own process. I'm not ready for official." "That's fine." She saved the report to an encrypted drive and gave me a copy. Then she said, "Dawn, don't edit either source file." "I won't. Don't add comments. Don't rename the originals. Work from copies, okay. And keep the email showing when you downloaded hers." "I already did." That got the smallest smile from her. "Of course you did." I returned to my office and finished the client map. It took longer than it should have because I checked every label twice. At lunch, I ate yogurt at my desk and opened the comparison report. Bailey had organized the strongest matches by chapter and page number. She excluded the reference list and common technical phrases. Even after that, the report ran for dozens of pages. I printed it using the office machine in the records room. I stood beside the printer until every page came out, then placed the report in a plain file folder. At 3, Dad called. I watched the phone ring until it stopped. A minute later, he called again. I let that one stop too. He left a voicemail. "Dawn, your mother says you're upset about the computer. I don't understand why this is suddenly an issue. It was sitting unused. Erica needed it, and it helped her get through a difficult period. That should be the end of it. Call me when you're ready to be reasonable." I saved the voicemail. That was another deliberate choice. Normally, I would have called back and explained myself. I would have worked hard to make him understand that I wasn't upset about the price of the laptop. Then he would have told me I was overreacting, and the conversation would have ended with me apologizing for my tone. This time, I did not give him anything to argue with. After work, I drove home with the printed report on the passenger seat. I kept thinking about my defense. Dr. Willis tapping a chart and asking whether it was interesting or wrong. Grandma raising her tea after everyone else had turned the dinner toward Erica. At my apartment, I took the report inside and laid it beside the two abstracts. Then I opened my email and searched for Dr. Willis. We had exchanged holiday messages and occasional notes about published research, but I hadn't seen him in over a year. I wrote 3 versions of an email. The first explained too much. The second sounded angry. I deleted both. The third said, Dr. Willis, I found substantial overlap between my 2020 dissertation and another dissertation accepted by the department in 2023. I'd like to ask you about the department's records for my defense and submission. Could I meet with you privately this week? I read it once. Then I attached nothing and pressed send. Dr. Willis replied 9 minutes later, come by Wednesday at 10. Bring both documents. There was no greeting and no question about what I meant by substantial overlap. That was typical of him. If something could be examined, he preferred examining it before discussing it. Wednesday was 2 days away. I spent Monday evening making a clean packet for him. I printed my dissertation from the university library, not from my personal files. I did the same with Erica's. I added a short index showing the matching passages, tables, and errors. I did not include Bailey's full comparison report. That report was useful to me, but I didn't want the conversation to become about software. I wanted Dr. Willis to see the pages the way a committee member would see them. At 9 that night, Mom called. I almost ignored it. Then I decided it might help to hear what she knew. Hi, Mom. Are you still angry? I'm still thinking. About a computer? About several things. She became quiet. I waited. Mom was uncomfortable with silence. If I didn't fill it, she usually did. Finally, she said, Your father feels terrible that you've turned his good deed into something ugly. What good deed? Helping your sister, with my property. You weren't using it. That doesn't make it yours. We're your parents. Your things were in our house. For storage. It had been sitting there. Did you open it? No, she answered quickly. Did Dad? Of course not. Did Erica? I don't know what Erica did with it. She needed a working computer. That laptop was password protected. Then I assume she figured it out. How? I don't know, Dawn. I'm not good with computers. I stood at my kitchen counter looking at the printed dissertations. When did you give it to her? Why does that matter? I'm asking. It was sometime in 2022. What month? I don't remember. Was it before or after Grandma's birthday? Grandma had already been gone by then. Mom recognized what I was doing. Don't interrogate me. I'm asking when you gave away my laptop. We didn't give it away. We let your sister use it. Do you have it now? No. Then you gave it away. Mom exhaled into the phone. Erica was under enormous pressure. Her own computer had stopped turning on, and she had work due. Your father remembered the one in your desk. We thought you had replaced it. I had a company computer. That isn't a replacement for my personal property. Well, we can buy you another one. The offer told me she still believed the object was the problem. I don't want another one. Then what do you want? I looked at Erica's dissertation. I want to know exactly what happened. Nothing happened. Your sister used an old computer. She finished her degree. It all worked out. For Erica, it had. Mom softened her voice. Your father said you wouldn't take his calls. I heard his voicemail. He's worried you'll say something at the confirmation dinner. What confirmation dinner? Another silence. This one lasted longer. Mom said, the council is holding a formal dinner next month. We were going to tell you once the date was settled. Why wouldn't I be told now? Because of how you acted Sunday. I read a press release and asked who took my laptop. You made Erica uncomfortable in her own celebration. It was your house. You know what I mean. I pulled a pen toward me and wrote confirmation dinner on the top page of my notebook. What happens at the dinner? They recognize the appointment. There are speeches. Council members will be there. Is her appointment final? She's been selected. That wasn't my question. Mom sounded irritated now. I don't know how their procedures work. Your father said the formal confirmation happens at the dinner, but it's ceremonial. What date? Dawn. What date, Mom? The 24th? I wrote that down. Where? The Prairie Rose Event Hall. Who invited me? We haven't sent the family invitations yet. Are you asking me not to come? No. I'm asking you to behave like Erica's sister. I almost asked her what that meant. I already knew. It meant I should stand in the correct place, smile at the correct time, and avoid saying anything that made Erica's success harder to enjoy. I have to go, I said. Promise me you won't do anything. I don't know what you're asking me to promise. Yes, you do. No, Mom, I really don't. I ended the call. Then I searched for the council's appointment process. The council website had posted more information since Sunday. There was a public announcement, a short biography, and a summary of Erica's nomination packet. Her dissertation was listed first under scientific qualifications. The summary called it an original framework for evaluating delayed seismic response around high-volume injection zones. It said her work had already influenced the Council's internal review methods and would support a new series of recommendations later that year. I read that section several times. Until then, part of me had treated the dissertation as a closed academic offense. It was serious, but it had happened 3 years earlier. Erica had the degree. The document sat in a university archive. Most people would never read it. The council changed that. She had used the dissertation to get authority over current decisions. Companies would respond to her recommendations. State officials would repeat her conclusions. Researchers might cite her work. If the appointment went through, the same material would keep moving under her name. I clicked on a photograph from her nomination announcement. Erica stood beside Glenn Mack, the council chair. They were holding a bound document with the council seal on the cover. The caption identified it as her Chief Science Director nomination packet. I enlarged the photograph. A tab near the back read, Dissertation. My phone rang again. This time it was Dad. I answered. Your mother says you upset her. She called me. She was trying to smooth things over. She asked me to promise I wouldn't do anything at a dinner I hadn't been told about. Dad lowered his voice. That dinner matters. I understand that. People from the governor's energy office may be there. University people will be there. This is the biggest professional moment of your sister's life. His pride came through clearly. So did the warning. Why are you telling me that? Because you have a habit of getting very exact when you feel someone has slighted you. I asked what happened to my laptop, and I told you. We gave it to Erica because she needed it. He had stopped saying they let her use it. Did you help her access it? I took it to a computer shop. I gripped the phone. Why? She couldn't remember the password. She never knew the password. Whatever. The point is, they got it working. What shop? I don't remember. What did you ask them to do? Reset the login, something like that. Did you tell them it belonged to me? It was in my house. That isn't an answer. He became impatient. I paid for the computer to be made usable. I didn't sit there while they did it. Did they preserve the files? I assume so. Erica needed files from the machine. I stopped writing. What files did she say she needed? Dad didn't answer immediately. Then he said, Old geology material. Whose old geology material? You and Erica were in the same department. She thought there might be software or reference material she could use. Did she mention my dissertation? No. The word came too late. Are you sure? I'm not going to keep answering questions like I'm in your office. You've never been in my office. That's not the point. No. The point is that you paid someone to bypass the password on my computer because Erica wanted my old geology files. She was desperate. He said it as if desperation settled ownership. I asked, did you look at anything she took from it? No, did you ask? I trusted my daughter. I let that sit. Dad heard it after he said it. His voice changed. I mean, Erica. I trusted Erica. I know what you meant. Don't twist my words. I didn't. He took a breath. Dawn, Your sister worked for years to get this opportunity. Whatever resentment you have about the computer, handle it privately. Do not show up at that dinner trying to punish her. I haven't said I'm going to the dinner. You will be invited. Then why are you already worried? He didn't answer. I heard Mom speak in the background too far from the phone to make out the words. Dad said, "Just leave this alone until after the confirmation." That was the first time either parent asked me for a specific delay. Until after the confirmation, not until they could explain, not until Erica could return the laptop, not until we could sit down together. They wanted the appointment secured first. "I have to go," I said. "Dawn, I'll talk to you later. Do not embarrass this family." I ended the call and saved that voicemail's written transcript along with my notes, even though the call itself had not been recorded. I added one more line beneath the date of the dinner. Dad paid to bypass my password. The next morning, I drove to Stillwater. The OSU campus looked almost exactly as it had when I was a graduate student. There were newer banners on the light poles and construction fencing near one building, but the geology department still smelled like dust, printer toner, and burnt coffee. I arrived 20 minutes early. Dr. Willis's office door was open. He was sitting behind his desk with reading glasses low on his nose. He looked up. "You're early, I know. That usually means the situation is worse than the email." I held up the document box. "It might be." He pointed to a chair. His office had always been crowded. Books filled the shelves in uneven rows. Rolled maps stood in a cardboard tube near the window. A small rock sample I had brought him from a field site years earlier still sat beside his monitor. I placed both dissertations on his desk. He read the titles. Then he looked at me. "Erica Grant is your sister." "Yes." "I saw the council announcement. That's part of why I'm here." I handed him the index. He did not begin with the abstracts. He opened my dissertation to the first marked page, then found the corresponding page in Erica's. He read silently. I watched his finger move down the paragraphs. After several minutes, he asked, "How did you find this?" "There was a copy of the council press release at my parents' house. I recognized the abstract." "That quickly?" "I wrote it." He nodded once and continued. When he reached the pressure diffusion section, he took off his glasses and cleaned them with the edge of his shirt. "Did you share drafts with her?" "No." "Did you work together?" "No." "Did she have access to your research drive?" "She had my old laptop." His hand stopped. "How?" "My parents gave it to her in 2022. They paid someone to bypass the login." He put his glasses back on. "Did the laptop contain these files?" "Yes." "Raw data too?" "Some of it." "Not the full project archive, but there were drafts, tables, figures, and analysis files." "Where's the laptop now?" "I don't know." He reached the mislabeled table. I watched him compare the rows. "Garfield," he said. "It should be Grant County." "I remember." "You remember that error?" "I remember asking why those coordinates had crossed the county line without moving." Despite everything, I smiled. "You phrased it exactly like that during revisions. You corrected it for publication." "Yes, not in the deposited dissertation." He leaned back and looked toward the window. "This is not ordinary citation misuse." "That's what Bailey said." "Who is Bailey?" "A colleague who runs document comparisons for our reports." She checked the files. "Good." He read more of Erica's dissertation. When he reached one of my figures, he turned the page sideways. She changed the colors and the axis label, not the underlying values. "No." "Doctor." Willis opened my dissertation to the same figure. "This came from your post-defense revision." "Yes. I remember because the committee asked you to separate the injection series from the earthquake count. I had expected him to recognize the work. I had not expected him to remember individual revisions." He closed both documents. "Has anyone at the university been notified?" "No." "Has Erica been told what you found?" "No. Keep it that way for now." I looked at him. That was my instinct. It's the correct one. Once an accusation is made, people begin protecting positions. Your sister will protect her degree. Her advisor will protect the committee. The department will protect its process. And you, I'll protect the record. He said it without performance. I took out the council summary and placed it beside the dissertations. They used this work to qualify her for Chief Science Director. He read the page. His expression tightened at the phrase original framework. I received an invitation to the confirmation dinner, he said. Why? Professional courtesy. They invited several faculty members connected to seismic research. My mother said university people would be there. I had not planned to attend. He looked down at Erica's nomination summary again. Now, I may. That raised the stakes in a way I had not expected. Dr. Willis was no longer only the chair from my old defense. He was someone the council itself had invited into the room where Erica's appointment would become official. I asked, "Can you tell whether she submitted my actual file? Not from printed pages. What would tell us? Earlier drafts, file records, submission dates, anything showing the development of the work before 2023. I have drafts in cloud storage. Keep them untouched. I will." He looked at the box I had brought. "Your personal copies establish what you possessed. We also need to know what the university retained. I thought the library only kept the final dissertation." "The library does." He paused, still looking at the documents. "Your research was federally funded, wasn't it?" "Yes." "Then there may be another record." I waited for him to continue. "Office of Research Compliance," he said. "Do you remember the dissertation archive?" I stared at him. The name was familiar, but only in the way an old password screen is familiar. I remember uploading progress files somewhere. You did more than upload progress files. I used about 6 university systems. They all looked the same. This one was tied to the grant. He moved my dissertation aside and reached for his keyboard. When the federal grant started, the university required every doctoral candidate funded through that research group to maintain an archived draft record. The department applied the requirement to all related candidates, so nobody could claim unequal oversight. I remember the training. Barely, apparently. I was trying to learn seismic modeling. You were also clicking through compliance instructions without reading them. That sounds possible. He found an old faculty page and turned the monitor toward me. Most of the links were expired, but the heading remained: Federally Funded Research Document Retention. Below it was a reference to dissertation and thesis, version archiving. Dr. Willis pointed at the screen. Drafts were stored under the student's university account. Every submission received a date and time. Once recorded, the student couldn't replace it. A newer file became a new entry. I leaned closer. How long did they keep them? At least through the grant retention period. Possibly longer. The grant ended in 2021. Yes. So the records might be gone. They might. I don't know the office's current retention schedule. Why would my dissertation drafts matter if I already have them? Because your personal files show what you possess now. The university archive may show what you submitted then. I sat back. The difference was clear. A personal file could be challenged. Erica could say I created it later. She could say I copied her dissertation after 2023 and changed the dates on my computer. It would be ridiculous, but my family had spent years making ridiculous explanations sound reasonable. A university record from before her defense would be different. Would it contain the actual drafts? It should contain whatever you uploaded. I don't remember how often I did it. Often enough to complain about it. I looked at him. He gave me a tired smile. You sent me an email in 2018 asking whether the portal existed solely to make graduate students miserable. That sounds like me. I told you misery was incidental. That sounds like you. He returned to the old page. The system was designed to preserve the development of funded work. It wasn't meant for plagiarism cases. It was meant to prove that research records existed when we said they did. Would Erica have used it too? Her program overlapped with the grant period. If her work fell under the department policy, yes, she wasn't on my grant. That may not matter. As I said, the department applied the archive requirement more broadly. He picked up the phone on his desk, then stopped. I'm not going to call from here. Why? Because I don't want to turn your question into department gossip before we know what exists. He wrote a name on a yellow note. Catherine Rivera. Director of Research Compliance, he said. Her office controls the archive now. I don't know her. You may have seen her at a training. That doesn't narrow it down. Contact her as an alumna, requesting your own research record. Don't begin with your sister. Why not? Because the moment you request another person's records, this becomes an allegation. That triggers restrictions. I need both accounts. Eventually. First confirm that yours exists. He handed me the note. For the first time since Sunday, I had something Erica might not have touched. She could have the laptop, she could delete its local files, she could rename my chapters and recolor my figures. None of that would reach backward into a university system locked under my login. I had thought the computer was the only bridge between my work and hers. It wasn't. If you understand why that changed everything for me, leave the word record in the comments. I put the yellow note inside my folder. Can I walk over there? You can. She may not see you without an appointment. I'm already on campus. Dr. Willis nodded toward the dissertations. Leave these with me. Both? I want to review the complete sections, not only the matches. I hesitated. They're library copies, he said. You have clean files. Several. Then leave them. I closed the document box and gave it to him. At the door, he said, Dawn. I turned. Don't assume the archive proves anything until you see it. I know, and don't assume it doesn't exist because the first person says they can't find it. That sounded less like general advice. Have you dealt with that office before? I've dealt with every office on this campus before. It was the closest he came to answering. The Office of Research Compliance had moved since my graduate years. I found it in a newer administrative building near the edge of campus. The lobby was quiet. A receptionist sat behind a curved desk with a headset over one ear. I said, I'm looking for Catherine Rivera. Do you have an appointment? No. Dr. Willis suggested I speak with her about an archived research record. The receptionist asked my name and typed it into her computer. Are you a current employee? Former doctoral student. What year did you complete? 2020. She made a call and spoke quietly. After a minute, she said, Ms. Rivera has 10 minutes. Catherine's office was neat in a way Dr. Willis's never would be. Her desk held one monitor, a closed notebook, and a glass of water. There were no loose papers. She stood when I entered. Dawn Patterson? Yes. Thank you for seeing me. She gestured toward a chair. You mentioned an archived research record. My doctoral work was funded through a federal grant. Dr. Willis said dissertation drafts may have been stored through your office. What was the grant period? 2016 through 2021. Department, geology, principal investigator? I gave her the name from the grant paperwork. Catherine entered the information. What are you requesting? My complete submission history, dates, file names, and archived drafts under my university account. Why? I'm reviewing the development of my dissertation. She looked at me over the monitor. For publication? Possibly. It wasn't a lie. I still had unpublished material from the project. It also wasn't the reason I was sitting there. She typed for another moment. The repository you're describing is no longer active. My chest tightened. Were the records deleted? I didn't say that. Are they retained? Some legacy records were migrated. Were mine. I can't determine that while you're sitting here. She asked for my former student identification number. I gave it to her. Your university account is inactive, she said. I expected that. You'll need to verify your identity before anything can be released. I have my driver's license. That isn't the only requirement. She opened a form and turned the monitor slightly so I could see it. The form asked for my former department, degree dates, grant association, and the specific records requested. It also required a reason for access and the signature of a current university official familiar with the research. Dr. Willis can sign, I said. He can certify your identity and connection to the project. That does not guarantee release. What would prevent it? Records involving funded research may contain information belonging to the university, the grant sponsor, or other researchers. I'm requesting my own uploads. If the files include shared data, they may not be solely yours. I don't need the raw data. I need the draft history. That distinction may help. She printed the form. The printer beside her made a soft clicking sound before feeding out 2 pages. I took them. Can you tell me whether my name appears in the legacy system? Catherine folded her hands. I can tell you a user record appears under your former account. I held still. Does it include files? I haven't opened it. Can you tell how many entries there are? Not without accessing the record. But the account exists. Yes. That was enough to change the shape of the problem. I had entered the building hoping an old system might still exist. Catherine had just confirmed my account survived the system's retirement. I asked, are the dates in that system reliable? They are system-generated. Can users change them? Not after submission. Could an administrator change them? Not without creating an audit entry. And the files? Locked after upload. Corrections were submitted as new versions, exactly as Dr. Willis had said. I looked at the form again. How long does a request take? It depends on the scope. I'm asking for dates and draft history from one account. You also mentioned archived files. Then start with the history. Catherine's expression remained neutral. Submit the form. We'll determine what can be produced. I could tell she wanted the meeting to end. I stood but did not leave. If I later needed records from another account connected to the same department, what would that require? Her eyes sharpened. Whose account? I'm asking about the process. The account holder could request their own record. Otherwise, access would require a formal university purpose, written authorization, or an active review. What kind of review? Research misconduct, academic integrity, grant compliance, litigation. It depends. Would a documented concern about overlapping dissertations qualify? She did not answer immediately. What concern? She asked. I placed my hand on the back of the chair. This was the point where I could show her the pages and begin an official accusation. Dr. Willis had told me not to do that before confirming my own record. I said, I'm trying to understand what documentation would be needed. Substantial documentation. Would matching passages be enough? Not by themselves. A copied data table? It would depend on ownership and source. An identical error? Catherine closed the form on her screen. Miss Patterson, if you believe research misconduct occurred, I can give you the reporting policy. I'm not filing a report today. Then I can only discuss your own record. I understand. She walked me to the door. Before I left, I asked one more question. If someone later possessed the computer used to create the drafts, could they alter the files in your archive? No. Could they delete them? No. Could they upload a file under my old account after it became inactive? Not without the account being formally restored, which would be recorded. I nodded. Thank you. In the hallway, I photographed both pages of the request form. Then I called Dr. Willis. He answered with, Did she turn you away? Not completely. What did she confirm? My user record exists. He was silent for a second. That's useful. She needs you to sign the request. Bring it back. When I returned to the department, his office door was closed. I could hear voices inside, so I waited on a bench across the hall. A few minutes later, a faculty member I recognized came out. He glanced at me, then at the document box on Dr. Willis's desk. Dawn, he said, haven't seen you in years. Hi, I heard your sister got the council position. That's quite a family achievement. The phrase caught me. Family achievement. I gave him a small smile. It's getting a lot of attention. It should. That dissertation of hers made some people rethink the regional models. Dr. Willis appeared behind him. I need Dawn for a meeting, he said. The faculty member nodded and left. I went inside and shut the door. They're already talking about her work as if it changed the field, I said. They've been talking that way since the appointment announcement. You knew? I knew the council liked her dissertation. I did not know why it looked familiar. He took the request form. As he read it, I noticed my copy of Erica's dissertation open on his desk. Several paper tabs marked the pages. "You found more," I said. "Yes." "How much more?" "Enough that your index was conservative." He signed the certification section and added his faculty identification number. Under reason for request, he wrote, "Verification of authorship chronology for federally funded doctoral research." I read it. Catherine may treat that as an allegation. She'll treat it as a reason not to ignore the request. He made a copy for his records. I took the signed form back to Catherine's office. This time, the receptionist accepted it and stamped the first page with the date. I asked for a receipt. She gave me a scanned copy showing the time of submission. By the time I reached my car, I had an email from the compliance office. "Request received. Review pending." No estimated completion date appeared. I sat in the driver's seat and opened the old cloud folder on my phone. The earliest dissertation draft I could find there was from late 2018. That was useful, but my research had started 2 years earlier. If the compliance archive contained what Dr. Willis remembered, it might show the work developing from 2016 onward. It might also show something else. Erica had been required to use the same system. If her account survived too, the university could compare not only our final dissertations, but the way each one had appeared over time. Mine should have years of drafts. I had no idea what hers would show. That afternoon, Catherine emailed again. "Your request requires additional internal review due to the inclusion of grant-linked materials. Please do not contact repository support directly. All communication should come through this office." I read the sentence about repository support twice. She had not denied the files existed. She was telling me not to go around her. I forwarded the email to Dr. Willis. His response came a few minutes later. "Good. Now they have to document whatever they do next." I saved both messages, printed them, and added them to the folder. The next morning, Mom sent a message asking whether I had gone to the university. I did not answer. 10 minutes later, she called. I let it go to voicemail. "Dawn, someone told Erica they saw you in the geology building carrying a box of papers. She's very upset. Whatever you're doing, you need to call her before this gets out of hand." The faculty member outside Dr. Willis's office had recognized me. Apparently, he had also spoken to Erica. I saved the voicemail and went to work. At 11, Erica called my office number. That got my attention. She had not called that number in years. I closed my door before answering. "What do you want?" "Can we talk like adults?" "We are adults. You know what I mean." "No, I don't." She lowered her voice. I could hear traffic behind her. "Mom said you're digging through old university records. I requested my own research files." "Why? They belong to me." "You went to Dr. Willis?" "Yes." "What did you tell him?" I watched someone walk past my office carrying a set of drilling logs. I asked about my dissertation records. "Did you mention me? Why would that worry you?" She stopped talking. I waited. Finally, Erica said, "I don't want this becoming some big family war." "It wasn't a family war when you took my computer. I didn't take it. Dad gave it to me." "You keep saying that like it answers everything." "I needed a computer. You needed my files." Another silence. She said, "I used some of your older material as a starting point. You used paragraphs from my final dissertation. Our topics overlapped. You used my tables. They were based on public data. You copied an error from one." Her breathing changed. I had not told Mom or Dad about the mislabeled county. If Erica knew what I meant, then she had looked closely enough to know the error was there. She said, "What do you want from me?" "The truth. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. I could acknowledge your earlier work in the next publication." I sat very still. How? A citation. A note saying my framework developed from related work you did. Your dissertation already includes citations to my published articles. Then I could make the relationship clearer. The relationship is that I wrote it. Not all of it. Enough of it. She spoke quickly. I updated the literature. I added the regulatory section. I reran parts of the analysis. You changed the title page. That's not fair. I almost laughed. Instead, I asked, "What happened to your own project?" She did not answer. "Your instrumentation failed," I said. "That's what Mom told everyone for years. What happened after that? It wasn't only the equipment. What else? The field design didn't produce usable results. How long did you know?" "I don't remember." "You remember?" She exhaled. "By the end of 2021, I knew the main study wasn't going to work. You started the program in 2014. I know when I started. You were approaching the 8-year limit. You don't need to explain my own program to me." "Then you explain it." She went quiet again. When she spoke, her voice had changed. The anger was gone. She sounded tired. The department told me I had until the end of 2022 to show I had a defensible project. If I could produce a complete manuscript, they would let me schedule the defense in the next cycle. If I couldn't, I was done. That explained why she defended in 2023, even though her 8 years had ended the year before. The manuscript had bought her enough time to reach the next defense schedule. "What did your advisor say? That I should narrow the project to my project? No, to regional analysis, which was my project. It was not exclusively yours." I picked up a pen but did not write yet. I wanted to hear her without the sound of movement. How did the laptop enter the conversation? My computer stopped working. That's the version everyone keeps repeating. Because it happened. And then? I told Dad I couldn't afford to lose more time. What did he know was on my laptop? Your graduate work. Did he know my dissertation was there? He knew you wrote it on that computer. And Mom? She knew too. There it was. They had not pulled an empty spare computer from a closet. They had opened the desk where my doctoral work was stored, paid someone to bypass my password, and delivered the machine to the daughter who needed a dissertation. I asked, "Did you tell them what you planned to do?" "I didn't plan to copy anything." "What did you plan?" "To look at your structure, your methods, maybe use the old analysis files to see what I could adapt." "Without asking me." "You would have said no." "Yes, exactly." She said it as if my refusal would have been unreasonable. "What happened after you opened the files?" I asked. "I found your later drafts. And I realized the regional model could support a broader study. It already supported my study. You had moved into consulting. You weren't doing anything with the dissertation. I completed it. That was what I was doing with it. You know what I mean?" "I don't think I do." She became sharper. "You had your degree. You had a job. You had published from the research. I was about to lose everything. So you decided I had enough. I decided using the framework wouldn't hurt you. You didn't cite the framework as mine." "I couldn't." "Why?" "Because then the committee would have treated it as an extension of your work. It was an extension of my work. They would have asked why I hadn't built something independent. That would have been a reasonable question." She gave a short, bitter laugh. "You always think rules work because you're good at following them. No. I think rules become very flexible when Mom and Dad need to protect you." "That's not what happened." "Dad paid someone to bypass my password. He was helping me finish. Mom knew my dissertation was on the machine. She knew there were files. You just said she knew. I don't remember exactly what anyone knew. That was the first time Erica tried to pull part of the admission back. I started writing. End of 2021, project unusable. Deadline at end of 2022. Complete manuscript required for next defense cycle. Parents knew dissertation was on laptop. Erica expected Dawn to refuse. I asked, "Why didn't you start over with a smaller project? There wasn't time. Why didn't you leave without the degree? After 8 years? People leave programs. You wouldn't understand. Try me." She was quiet long enough that I wondered whether the call had dropped. Then she said, "Dad had told everyone at his retirement dinner that both his daughters would have doctorates. Mom had been talking about my research for years. Daniel had carried most of our expenses while I stayed in the program. I couldn't walk away with nothing. There was the rest of it. Not science. Not even the degree by itself. Erica could not bear to become the daughter everyone had protected for 8 years who still failed at the end. My parents could not bear it either. They had spent too long explaining her delays as evidence of persistence. If she left without the doctorate, they would have to admit that all their help had not produced the result they promised everyone. My finished work was sitting in their house, so they gave it to her. What did Dad say when you told him you found my drafts? He said you had already finished, that's all. He said family helps family. I wrote that down too. And Mom? She said you wouldn't want me dismissed over something as small as needing a usable research direction. Did either of them tell you to ask me? You were busy in Oklahoma City. That was their reason? They knew how you would react. They knew I would say no. Yes. Erica sounded calmer now. She had moved from denying the choice to defending it. I asked, "What happened to the laptop?" "I don't know. You used it for your dissertation. I replaced it after the defense." "Where is it?" "It may be in storage." "Whose storage?" "Mine." "Daniel handles most of that." "Does Daniel know it was mine?" "He knows Dad gave it to me." "Does he know what you found on it?" "No." Her answer came immediately. Daniel had attended her celebration, supported her through the degree, and watched her receive the counsel appointment. He did not know the dissertation began on my computer. Did your committee know? Of course not. Did your advisor? No. Did anyone outside Mom and Dad know? No. I believed that part. Erica's anger had given way to fear. Not fear of me, exactly. Fear of the number of people who might learn what she had done. She said, "I can fix the acknowledgement." You can't add a footnote to a dissertation 3 years after the degree. I'm talking about going forward. You mean after the appointment is secure. I earned that appointment through more than one document. The council lists your dissertation as your first scientific qualification. I have experience. I've been on panels. I've advised working groups, using credibility from the degree. She began walking. The traffic noise shifted. "Listen to me," she said. "If you raise this now, they may pull the appointment before confirmation. That won't give you anything. It would stop them from confirming someone under false qualifications. You don't care about the council. I care about the decisions it makes. You work for companies the council regulates. My firm advises clients. I don't own injection wells. People will say you did this because you wanted the position. I didn't apply for it, they'll still say it." That sounded rehearsed too. I asked, "Is that what you told Mom and Dad?" "I told them you were jealous. You called me weird on the porch before I had even compared the documents, because I knew how you'd make it look. I didn't make it look like anything." She spoke slowly. "What would it take for you to let the confirmation happen?" It was the first honest question she had asked. "You think this is a negotiation?" "I think you're my sister. You didn't think that when you removed my name." I was desperate. And now I have a chance to do real work. With mine. With work I expanded. I looked at the folder beside my keyboard. "I'm not agreeing to anything. I can give you private credit, there's no such thing. I can tell the council your research influenced me. After they confirm you, yes. No." Her voice tightened. "Dawn, don't do this. I'm not the person who did it." I ended the call. She rang again immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Her message lasted almost 2 minutes. Most of it repeated what she had said. Near the end, her voice dropped. "Mom and Dad were trying to keep me from being thrown out after 8 years. They knew you were already fine. You were never going to lose anything. Please don't punish everyone because you want your name on something." I saved the voicemail in 3 places. Then I added my notes from the call to the folder. For years, my parents had said Erica needed more because I needed less. Now I knew exactly how far that belief had taken them. They had not accidentally given away a computer. They had decided my completed work was an available family resource. 2 days later, Dr. Willis called while I was driving back from a site meeting. "Can you come to campus tomorrow?" he asked. "Yes." "Catherine needs a written basis to compare accounts. I thought she wouldn't release another person's record. She won't release the files themselves. She can perform a compliance review and produce an audit summary. What changed? You have evidence of overlapping funded research. I pulled into a shopping center parking lot. Did you send her the dissertations?" I sent 6 matching passages, the 2 tables, and a written statement confirming that I chaired your defense in 2020. Did you mention Erica's counsel appointment? No, it isn't relevant to whether the university records match. Does Erica get notified? Not for this initial review, are you sure? I asked Catherine that exact question. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel. What time tomorrow? 9. I arrived at Catherine's office with the voicemail from Erica saved on my phone and a printed transcript I had made myself. Dr. Willis was already there. Catherine closed the door and asked us both to sit. A thin folder rested in front of her. Before we begin, she said, "This is a records verification meeting. It is not an academic integrity hearing." "I understand," I said. "The purpose is to determine whether the archived submission history can establish a chronology. Any decision about misconduct belongs to another office." Dr. Willis said. "Understood." Catherine looked at me. "Dr. Willis submitted a statement identifying your dissertation as funded research he supervised. He also identified specific material in the later dissertation that appears substantially similar. Did you compare the files?" "I compared the archived records. That isn't the same thing." "No. It is more limited and, in one respect, more useful." She opened the folder. The first page carried the OSU letterhead and the title, Legacy Dissertation Repository Audit. My name appeared beneath it. Below my name was my former university account. Then came a list of dates. The first entry was from September of 2016. I had not found anything that early in my cloud storage. The file name was terrible. Draft_notes_current. I remembered naming files that way before Dr. Willis forced me to adopt a consistent system. The next entry came 3 weeks later. Another appeared in November. The list continued through 2017, 2018, and 2019. Each row showed the account holder, upload time, file name, file size, and a long digital identification code. "What is this last column?" I asked. "A file hash," Catherine said. "Think of it as a fingerprint for that exact file. If the file changes, the fingerprint changes. So it proves the archived copy was not replaced. It proves the copy we retrieved is the same copy stored under that entry." I turned the page. My submissions became more frequent in 2019. Some file names included chapter numbers. Others included dates and notes to myself. Methods revised, committee draft, full draft for Willis. The final entries came from the spring of 2020. One was uploaded 11 days before my defense. Another appeared after the committee required revisions. The last was the version I submitted before the university accepted my degree. Every entry named me as the account holder, not the laptop, not whoever possessed it later, me. I looked at Dr. Willis. He was reading his own copy. Catherine said, "Your account contains a continuous development history from early research notes through a completed dissertation." "How many files?" 43 dissertation-related entries. We excluded administrative forms and unrelated grant documents. I turned another page. A second heading appeared. Erica Grant. Her university account was listed beneath it. There was one row, one upload. The date was in April of 2023, a few weeks before her defense. The file name identified it as a complete committee draft. I read the row twice. There aren't earlier drafts? Not in this repository. Could they have been deleted? No. Could she have submitted them through another account? If she did, they would not form part of her authenticated dissertation record. Could the old system have lost some? Catherine folded her hands. We checked the migration logs. Her user record was transferred without an error flag. It contains one dissertation file. Dr. Willis turned to her. Was she required to use the repository throughout her candidacy? The department certification says yes. Who certified that? The department submitted annual compliance lists. Her account appears on them. I looked at Erica's single entry. She had been in the program since 2014. The archive requirement began while she was still a doctoral candidate. Yet she had no developing chapters, no early methods, no incomplete analysis, and no failed instrumentation report in that system. She had uploaded a nearly finished dissertation weeks before defending it. "Did you compare her file with mine?" I asked. Catherine selected another page. "We did a limited technical comparison against your archived versions. The report listed my upload from late 2019, my pre-defense draft from 2020, and Erica's April 2023 submission. The wording was cautious. It said Erica's file contained extensive identical text, matching table values and figures derived from datasets represented in my earlier archived drafts. One note identified the Garfield County labeling error. Another identified the repeated form typo. A third described a figure with altered visual formatting but matching underlying values. I read the final sentence. The later submission is chronologically subsequent to multiple authenticated drafts containing the same substantive material under the account of Dawn Patterson. I said it quietly. The version history named me. Catherine nodded. The account record establishes chronology. Dr. Willis closed his copy. It establishes more than chronology. "It does not establish intent," Catherine said. "No," he replied. "But it establishes that Dawn's work existed under Dawn's account years before Erica submitted it." Catherine did not disagree. I placed both hands flat on the report. "Can I have a certified copy?" "That is the certified copy. It's mine. It was generated in response to your request. Pages involving the second account are limited to audit findings. You are not receiving Erica's archived file. I don't need her file. Her dissertation is public. I also prepared an electronic copy with a verification number." She passed me a small card explaining how an authorized recipient could confirm the report through her office. "Who can verify it?" I asked. "An academic integrity panel? Legal counsel, a government body with a legitimate interest, or another recipient you authorize, subject to university policy. The council? If they contact us regarding the scientific credential in question, yes, that answer mattered. A printed comparison from my office could be dismissed as a family accusation. Catherine's audit could be checked by the institution that controlled the source records. I took out my phone. I have a voicemail from Erica. Catherine raised one hand. "Before you play it, did she know she was being recorded?" "It's a voicemail she left voluntarily." "That's fine." I played the final part. "Mom and Dad were trying to keep me from being thrown out after 8 years. They knew you were already fine. You were never going to lose anything. Please don't punish everyone because you want your name on something." No one spoke for several seconds. Catherine asked, "Do you have the original message?" "Yes. Preserve it in its original format. Don't rely only on the transcript. I saved copies, but the original is still on my voicemail account." "Good." Dr. Willis looked at me. "Did she admit using the dissertation?" "On the call before that. I didn't record the conversation." "Write a dated account while it's fresh." "I already did." Catherine added, "Keep your notes separate from the certified audit. The audit is an institutional document. Your notes are your recollection." I put the report back in its folder. "What happens now?" "That depends on what you choose to do," she said. "You can file an academic integrity complaint. Dr. Willis can initiate a faculty referral. If the council relies on the dissertation as a qualification, it may also conduct its own review. Would Erica be notified if I filed today?" "Yes." I looked at Dr. Willis. He understood the question I had not asked. "The confirmation dinner is in 3 weeks," he said. Catherine's eyes moved between us. "What confirmation dinner?" I explained the council's schedule and showed her the public nomination summary on my phone. She read the paragraph calling Erica's framework original. "That description is inconsistent with the chronology in our audit," she said. It was the strongest statement she had made. "Were you invited to the dinner?" Dr. Willis asked her. "No. The compliance office usually sends someone when funded university research is used in a state appointment, usually only if requested. I'll request it." Catherine looked at him. "In what capacity?" as the chair who supervised the earlier research. "I want the custodian of the record present if the credential is discussed." She did not agree immediately. Then she said, "Send the request in writing." I left with the certified report inside a plain black folder. I drove directly to my office. Bailey was in a meeting, so I went into the records room and made 2 copies. I did not use the automatic feeder. I placed each page on the glass myself and checked every copy against the original. 1 copy went into my locked desk drawer. I took the other to my bank after work and placed it in a safe deposit box with a flash drive containing the electronic version, Erica's public dissertation, my archived dissertation, the comparison report, and her voicemail. The certified original stayed with me. That evening, an invitation from my parents arrived by email. The subject line read, "Erica's Confirmation Dinner, Family RSVP." The message described the appointment as a permanent recognition of Erica's original contribution to seismic safety research. I clicked yes. Then I put the black folder on my kitchen table and practiced 1 sentence. I wasn't hiding. I was just the one nobody thought to check on. The first time, it sounded angry. I tried again without raising my voice. Then I closed the folder and said nothing else. The next 3 weeks were quiet. Erica did not call again. Mom sent 2 messages about the dress code and one asking whether I planned to bring the computer issue into the evening. I replied, "I'll be there on time." She sent back a heart. Doctor. Willis confirmed that Catherine had accepted the invitation. The council added her as an institutional guest after he explained that her office had maintained records connected to research cited in the nomination packet. No one told Erica why Catherine was coming. As far as I knew, Erica had never met her. The day before the dinner, Bailey came into my office and shut the door. "Do you want someone to drive you?" she asked. "I'm staying at a hotel in Stillwater." That wasn't my question. "I know." She leaned against the wall. "You're going into a room where your parents have already decided you're the threat. They decided that years ago. That's not funny. It wasn't a joke." Bailey looked at the black folder on my desk. "Do they know you have the audit?" "No." "Does Erica?" "No." "Are you sure the council chair will act?" "No." That was the part I could not control. The audit proved chronology. Dr. Willis could confirm my defense. Catherine could verify the archive. None of that guaranteed Glenn Mack would respond in the room. He could postpone. He could call for a private meeting. He could decide the appointment should proceed while the university reviewed the degree. I was not going there to perform certainty I didn't have. I was going because the last moment before formal confirmation was the last moment when the council could not say the appointment had already become someone else's problem. Bailey nodded toward the folder. "Walk me through it once. I have the certified audit, the comparison index, the 2 abstracts, the matching table, the council's nomination summary, and a transcript of Erica's voicemail. Original voicemail? On my phone and backed up. Electronic audit? On the flash drive. Verification number? Inside the front cover." "Good." She waited. "What are you going to say first?" she asked. "I'm going to ask Catherine to explain the archive." "Not Erica?" "No." "Not your parents?" "No." That answer seemed to reassure her. Before she left, she said, "Call me when you get back to the hotel." "I will. And if the room turns against you, don't start arguing with 40 people." "I won't." You say that calmly, but I've seen you explain labeling errors to engineers. That's different. It really isn't. The next evening, I arrived at the Prairie Rose Event Hall at 6:15. The building sat outside central Stillwater, surrounded by a gravel parking area and flat open land. From the road, it looked like a renovated barn. Inside, it had polished concrete floors, wooden beams, and round tables covered with white cloths. A sign near the entrance read, "Confirmation Dinner, honoring Dr. Erica Grant." Below it was the council seal. Mom was waiting near the registration table in a dark red dress. "You came," she said. "I said I would." Her eyes dropped to the black folder in my hand. "What's that?" "Work." "Why did you bring work?" I came directly from Oklahoma City. That was not true. I had checked into the hotel first. Mom touched my wrist. Please don't make tonight difficult. Where am I sitting? She looked at me for another second, then pointed toward a table near the front. With the family. Dad stood beside Erica near the small stage. He wore the suit he used to wear at school board meetings. Erica had on a fitted navy dress and a silver necklace I recognized as one of Grandma's. I had never seen Mom give it to her. Daniel noticed me first. He crossed the room and hugged me. "I'm glad you came," he said. "Congratulations." He stepped back. "This has been a long road, I know." There was no suspicion in his face. He seemed tired and genuinely proud. Erica approached with a champagne glass in her hand. "You look serious," she said. "It's a formal dinner." Her eyes moved to my folder. "Did you bring me a presentation?" "No." "Then what is that?" "Something I need." She glanced toward Mom. "I thought we settled this." "We didn't." Her smile remained in place because 2 council members were standing nearby. She lowered her voice. "You told Mom you'd behave. I told Mom I'd be on time." Erica's eyes hardened. Then Dad joined us. "There are my girls," he said loudly. He placed a hand on each of our shoulders, arranging a family moment for anyone watching. "Tonight is about Erica," he said. "I understand." He squeezed my shoulder. "Good." A photographer asked us to stand beside the council sign. Mom joined us. Daniel stood next to Erica. I held the black folder at my side. The photographer took 3 pictures. In the second one, Dad leaned toward me and whispered, "Smile." I did. Across the room, I saw Dr. Willis enter with Catherine. He gave me a small nod and nothing more. Catherine wore a gray suit and carried a narrow leather portfolio. She greeted Glenn Mack near the stage. Glenn listened while Dr. Willis introduced her, then shook her hand. Erica noticed them. "Why is Sam here?" she asked. "He was invited," Dad said. "I know he was invited. I didn't think he was coming." Dad looked pleased. "It's good. Shows university support." Erica watched Catherine. "Who's that with him?" "I don't know," Dad said. I said nothing. The bound nomination packet was displayed on a stand beside the podium. Colored tabs divided the sections. The dissertation tab was still visible near the back. Guests began taking their seats. At the family table, Dad sat between Mom and me. Erica and Daniel were on the other side. Glenn shared the table with 2 council members. Doctor. Willis and Catherine sat at the next table, close enough to hear normal conversation. Wine was poured before dinner. Erica finished her first glass quickly. Glenn welcomed everyone and explained that the council had completed its selection process. The dinner marked the final confirmation of the appointment, after which Erica would formally assume the position. Dad looked at me when Glenn said final. I kept my hands in my lap. The first course arrived. Conversation stayed polite. Daniel asked about my work. I told him about the risk map I had completed. Erica interrupted. "She does consulting for operators," she told Glenn, "so we may end up on opposite sides of a few issues." Glenn smiled. "Good science survives disagreement." "It does," I said. Erica lifted her wine glass. "As long as the science is actually good." Daniel glanced at her. "Easy," he said. "I'm joking." She ordered another glass. During the main course, Dad told Glenn about Erica's persistence through 8 years of doctoral work. "She never quit," he said. "No matter what failed, she found another path." Erica looked at me across the table. "Sometimes the final direction is the right one." Mom said, "You were meant to do this." I cut a piece of chicken and ate it. No one asked about my dissertation. No one mentioned the laptop. That omission became noticeable after a while. They praised Erica's research in careful terms, as if everyone had agreed the past 3 weeks did not exist. Glenn spoke about the importance of public trust. Another council member described the chief science director as the person responsible for defending recommendations under political and commercial pressure. Erica nodded through all of it. She looked completely at ease again. By the time the plates were cleared, she had finished 3 glasses of wine. The lights dimmed slightly for the speeches. Dad went first. He stood at the podium and described Erica as determined, original, and unwilling to take the easy route. "My daughter spent years building this work," he said. "Andrea and I saw the late nights. We saw the setbacks. We saw her refuse to accept failure." Mom wiped her eyes. Dad continued. "Some people see an achievement and think it arrived all at once. We know what Erica put into that dissertation. We know it was hers before anyone else believed in it." I looked at him. He had chosen those words knowing what Erica admitted to me. He returned to the table to applause. Mom kissed his cheek. Dr. Willis did not clap. Catherine had opened her portfolio and placed a pen beside it. Glenn spoke next. He praised Erica's doctoral research and referred to the regional stress transfer framework as a major reason for her selection. Then he invited her to give the acceptance toast. Erica carried her wine glass to the podium. She thanked the council. She thanked Daniel. She thanked Mom and Dad for supporting her when her original project failed. For 1 second, I thought she might stop there. Instead, she placed one hand on the bound nomination packet. "This work is mine," she said. "Every model in that dissertation came from years of persistence. Every conclusion represents my decision not to quit when an easier person would have walked away." She looked toward our table. Research takes more than reading papers and pointing out mistakes. It takes courage. It takes judgment. Honestly, not everyone is built for real research. Several people laughed politely. Erica smiled directly at me. Dad stared at his plate. Mom did not move. Daniel's face changed. He finally understood that the line had been aimed at me. Erica lifted her glass, to original work and to the people willing to stand behind it. Glenn raised his glass. So did my parents. I left mine on the table. Erica drank, set down the glass, and accepted the applause. Then she returned to her seat. Glenn stepped toward the podium again and reached for the formal confirmation document. I put my hand on the black folder. Glenn stopped with one hand on the document. "Excuse me," I said. The room quieted slowly. Dad whispered, "Sit down." I stood. Glenn looked toward me. "Yes?" "Before you confirm the appointment, there's a problem with the dissertation in that nomination packet." Erica gave a short laugh. "Dawn, don't." I opened the folder. "I'd like Catherine Rivera to explain what the university's compliance archive shows." Everyone turned toward Catherine. Glenn asked, "Ms. Rivera?" Catherine stood and carried her portfolio to the podium. "I'm the director of Oklahoma State University's Office of Research Compliance," she said. "My office maintains legacy records from federally funded research programs." Erica's face lost its color. Catherine continued. "At Ms. Patterson's request, and with written verification from Dr. Willis, my office conducted an audit of archived dissertation drafts associated with 2 university accounts." I handed Glenn the certified report. He took it, but kept looking at Catherine. "What did the audit establish?" he asked. "Dawn Patterson's account contains 43 dissertation-related submissions, recorded between 2016 and 2020. They show the research developing over several years, and Dr. Grant's. One dissertation upload in April of 2023. It was submitted weeks before her defense." Erica stood. "That doesn't prove anything." "I kept drafts on my own computer." Catherine faced her. "The single file under your account contains extensive text, tables, and underlying figure values already present in Ms. Patterson's authenticated drafts." Glenn opened the report. Erica turned toward me. "You went into my university records?" "No," Catherine said. "We audited records maintained under the department's grant compliance policy. The report contains findings, not your protected files." I placed the 2 abstracts beside Glenn's copy. Dad stood halfway, then sat again. Glenn read the first page. He turned to the upload history, then to the comparison findings. "What is this county error?" he asked. I answered. "My original dissertation mislabeled one row as Garfield County. The coordinates are in Grant County. I corrected it later for publication." Erica's dissertation copied the original mistake. Erica said, "We use the same public data. Dr. Willis stood. "No," he said. The room went completely still. He walked to the front and opened my dissertation. I chaired Dawn Patterson's defense in 2020. I questioned that exact row during her revisions. I also questioned several phrases and figures that appear in Erica Grant's later dissertation. Erica looked at him. "You weren't on my committee. I did not claim I was. I'm confirming the work I supervised 3 years before your defense." Glenn asked Catherine, "Can this audit be independently verified?" "Yes, the verification number is inside the cover. The archived timestamps are system-generated and locked. The later owner of a physical laptop could not alter them." Glenn looked toward Erica. "Did you possess Ms. Patterson's laptop?" Dad answered before she could. "We gave it to her." Several people turned toward him. Mom gripped her napkin. Glenn asked, "Did Dawn authorize that?" Dad's mouth opened, but nothing came out. I said, "No." Erica stepped away from the table. "This is a family dispute. Dawn has always resented me." Daniel looked up at her. "Did you use her dissertation?" "I used shared material." "You told me you rebuilt your project." "I did. Did you take it from her computer?" Erica looked at my parents. Neither helped her. Daniel pushed his chair back and stood, but he did not leave. He moved away from Erica and stayed near the wall. Glenn closed the audit. "The council cannot confirm a chief science director whose primary qualifying credential is under a documented authorship dispute." Erica said, "You can't make that decision from one accusation." "I'm not." He held up the report. "I have a certified institutional audit, the director who produced it, and the chair who supervised the earlier work." He turned to the council members beside him. They spoke quietly for less than a minute. Then Glenn returned to the podium. "Effective immediately, the appointment of Erica Grant as Chief Science Director is rescinded. The Council will refer the dissertation and nomination materials to Oklahoma State University's Academic Integrity Board." Mom made a small sound. Erica stared at Glenn. "You're destroying my career before dessert?" "No," he said. "I'm stopping a confirmation based on a credential we can no longer accept as reliable." The dessert plates were still waiting on a cart near the kitchen doors. They were never served. Dad looked at me. "Dawn, we can explain. You gave her my laptop because you decided I had already received enough." Mom whispered, "We were trying to save her." "I know." That answer hurt her more than an argument would have. Dad said, "We didn't think she would take this much. You paid someone to bypass my password." He looked down. Mom said, "You were doing so well." Erica was about to lose everything. I closed the black folder. I wasn't hiding. I was just the one nobody thought to check on. That was the sentence I had practiced. It did not sound angry this time. Glenn asked Catherine and Dr. Willis to stay for a private procedural conversation. Daniel left through a side door without Erica. My parents remained at the table while the room emptied around them. I walked out alone. The academic integrity review began the following week. The university removed Erica's dissertation from ordinary public access while the review was pending. Her degree was not immediately revoked. That required a formal process, including a chance for her to respond. The council appointment was gone. Erica sent me one email accusing me of planning the humiliation for years. I forwarded it to the university investigator and did not reply. Daniel called 2 weeks later. "I found the Dell," he said. It had been in a storage unit with old graduate school boxes. He brought it to my office in a paper shopping bag. The laptop was scratched, and the battery had swollen enough that Bailey told me not to turn it on. Daniel placed it on my desk. "I didn't know," he said. "I believe you." He nodded once. Then he looked at the engraved initials underneath. "She told me your dad gave her a spare family computer. He gave her my computer. I understand that now." He left without defending Erica. Mom mailed me a 4-page letter. Most of it explained how frightened she had been that Erica would be dismissed. Near the end, she wrote that she was sorry I had felt overlooked. I returned the letter with that sentence underlined. I added one note. I did not feel overlooked. You overlooked me. She did not write again. Dad drove to Oklahoma City about a month after the dinner. He came alone. I met him at a coffee shop instead of letting him into my apartment. He looked older than he had at Prairie Rose. "I knew your dissertation was on the laptop," he said. I told myself Erica only needed an example. When she finished, I chose not to ask how. I waited. He continued. "I was more afraid of her failing than I was concerned about what helping her cost you. That was the first apology either parent gave me without hiding inside good intentions." "I'm sorry," he said. "Not that you were hurt. I'm sorry for what I did. I did not forgive him at the table. I told him he could call once a month. If he defended Erica, blamed me, or asked me to repair things with Mom, I would stop answering." He agreed. So far, he has followed the rule. The University Review was still active the last time I heard from Catherine. Erica's doctorate remained at risk, exactly where it should have been, in the hands of the institution that awarded it. I kept Grandma's damaged Dell. It sits on a shelf above her recipe box, with the engraved underside facing outward. For years, my family treated my competence as permission to take from me. The record did not care which daughter needed protecting. It only showed who did the work. If you want more stories like mine, subscribe and tell me which city you're watching from.